But now we're up to Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, and the end of that pasuk, or the very next pasuk, says Eidus bi Yosef Samo b'Tzeiso al Eretz Mitzrayim. So we're going to emphasize the word Eidus, and we're talking about Yosef going out to Mitzrayim. What does that mean? So the word Eidus has two letters that form a root, which is Ayin Dalet. Now the word Ayin Dalet has another meaning besides testimony or a witness, and it means a crown that you wear on your head. And the pasuk is testifying that on that day, Paro placed a crown, a golden crown, on the head of Yosef. He says here in the note, Eidus hu milashon adi v'kishut shekshiyotze Yosef beis asurim somol of Paro adi zahav kmo shenemar gracious mem aleph ayosem revid azov al tzavor. So this was the day that he was taken, he was freed from jail, and he would become viceroy of Egypt. And on that day, and that day was Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana, Batla Avodah Me'apasein Mitzrayim, terminated the slavery. How do we know this? From another example, Ksiv Hacha, here with regard to the termination of Shibud Mitzrayim. In the 6th chapter of Shmos, it says, Votseisi eschem mitachas sivlos Mitzrayim. Ksiv Hasam, with regard to Yosef, we go back to the pasuk that we were studying just before, which was quoted here in Amud Aleph from Tilpei Aleph, and there it says, Hasirosi me sevel shichma, that the sevel, all of the slavery or humiliation of being a locked up slave in a jail was removed from the shoulders of Yosef. So we have now Gzeir Shava Sevel Sivlos. And just like Yosef, when out of slavery, Hasirosef Yosef Shitno, that took place on Rosh Hashana, as we derive from the pasuk Eidus Yosef Samo. So too the Bittul Avoda, we as a people of Israel went out of slavery on that very same day, which is Rosh Hashana. And the Brisa says, B'Nisan Nigalu, that the Geula took place in Nisan. Oh, Kidisa, that's already explicit in the Torah, that we went out of Mitzrayim in Nisan. But then the Brisa says, in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, B'Tishrei Asidim Ligoya. How do we know that? That the future redemption at the end of days will take place in the month of Tishrei. Asiya Shofar Gzeir Shava, from the word Shofar, Ksiv Hacha. Regarding Rosh Hashana, until Pei Aleph, it says, Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar, Uksiv Hasam, and Yeshayahu Hanavi describes the ultimate redemption. Vayomahu Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol. Again, the word Shofar. So just like Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar is on Rosh Hashana, so too the ultimate Geula, which is foretold in the prophecy of Yeshaya, where it also says shofar is going to be on Rosh Hashana in the month of Tishrei. That's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Yeshua Omer ben Nisan Nigalu and ben Nisan Asidim Ligod. Just like the redemption from Egypt took place in the month of Nisan, the ultimate redemption will also likewise take place in the month of Nisan. Minola. How do we know this? Amakra, with regard to the night of Pesach, the night in which they left Mitzrayim, it says in Parashas Bo, Leil Shimur Mol Hashem Lo Tzion Me'eretz Mitzrayim. What is Leil Shimurim? Leil HaMeshumar Uba. This is the night that's designed and singled out. We're only waiting for it to come since Sheshis Mei Breshis. So already at the time of creation, God had designated a certain Leil Shimurim for the ultimate Geula of Klal Yisrael. So the pasuk is telling me that in addition to being Leil Shimurim for Yitzias Mitzrayim, it's also Leil Shimurim for all generations, including the Geula Sida, which will be at that time. Hence, Rabbi Yeshua derives the conclusion that Ben Nisan Asidim Ligo. Idach, Rabbi Eliezer, what does he do with this pasuk Leil Shimurim when he himself is of the opinion that the ultimate Geula will take place in Tishrei? So the Gemara answers, Laila Shumar Uba Min HaMazikin. This is a night in which we are protected from Mazikin. It has nothing to do with the Geula Sida. Now, I just want to make a comment which I think is important. There's a whole lot of focus here when the future Geula is going to take place. But the Gemara in Sanhedrin, in Perek Chelek, interpreting a pasuk B'ita Hashana, referring to the Geula, it says B'ita, it'll take place in its time, and it says Hashana, I might speed it up. So the Gemara says that we can reconcile these. If Klal Yisrael are doing Ritzono Shel Makom, and they'll observe 2 Shabbosos, whatever it is over there, then it's Achishena. I will bring it very quickly. But if they are Einamos Ritzono Shel Makom, then it's Be'ita. And I think what's going on here is this entire discussion and the Machlok Shin Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, whether the Geula Sida will take place in Tishrei or in Nisan, that's only if it's going to be Be'ita. So God designates a certain day for the Geula, but we can actually bring about the Geula earlier than it's meant to be. And then both Tanoim, I think, would agree it could be any day during the year. But as far as Be'ita, in event that, heaven forbid, we're not able to Achishena, and we're not Zilcha throughout Mice, then we're going to have to set a date, and that's going to be a machlokes between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua, what month that's in. Okay. So now we get to a discussion about an issue that is contingent upon this machlokes as to when the world was created. Okay, then? So we're going to talk about the Mabul now. And when did the Mabul come about? And it would seem that the beginning of the Mabul would based on the Psukim, would have to coincide with the time of creation, or not coincide, but we're going to interpret the Psukim based on when creation. So, for example, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the world was created in Tishrei. So when we count the years of man, and the pasuk is going to count the years of Noach, in this case, before the flood, then you're going to have to start counting in Tishrei. So the Torah dates the flood past Noach's 600th year into the 601st year. So we're going to reckon all that, according to Rabbi Eliezer, by Tishrei. And that's when the Torah identifies the beginning of the flood. So that's going to have to be sometime after Tishrei, which we'll see. Rabbi Eliezer is going to identify that as Cheshvan, when the waters start coming down. Now, Rabbi Yeshua holds that the world was created in Nisan. So when we count the years of man, we should start counting from Nisan. Like, for example, the years of Noah's life in our particular case That's how the Torah dates the Mabul. They should be reckoned from Nisan. So when the Pasuk speaks about the water drying up on the ground at the beginning of the 601st year, it's referring to Nisan. When it speaks of the ground drying in the second month, it means the month of Iyar. And we know that the Mabul lasted for 12 months. So it must have been started in Iyar the previous. Rabbi Yeshua therefore says that the second month is Iyar. So let's just see what we have over here in the Gemara. But I think I may have skipped one line. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll review one line. Is the Gemara says the Idach. How does Rabbi Eliezer deal with the pasuk Leil Shimurim Uba, which seems to indicate that the ultimate Geula will take place? No, he says Leil HaMeshumar Uba Ben HaMezikin. The pasuk has nothing to do with the Geula. It's called Leil HaMeshumar because it's Meshumar Ben HaMezikin. We're protected from the Mazik. Okay. Now the Gemara says, "V'azdu l'tamai." Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua, who argue in the following brisa we're about to quote, when did the Mabul begin? It's all consistent with their opinion about when the world was created. And Rabbi Yeshua is going to identify the beginning of the Mabul as the month of Iyar, right after the creation of the world in Nisan, because again, we're dating the Mabul with the years of Noah. And Rabbi Eliezer is going to identify the beginning of the Mabul as the month after the creation, meaning the month after Tishrei. So in both cases, both Tanoim are agreeing that the Mabul began in the month after the creation of the world, and that we'll see is based on Noah. So for Rabbi Yeshua, that would be the month of Iyar. And for Rabbi Eliezer, that would be the month of Cheshvan. Sanya, we learned in the Brisa, the Pasuk says, B'shnas sheish me'ot shana l'chai Noach. B'chodesh hasheni b'sheva asar yom l'chodesh. Hayom hazeh nivku kol ma'yanos tahom rabov arubos hashamayim nivtov. So we have a day which is called the 17th day of the month. Okay, but what month is it? All right, you've identified it as the 17th day. And that's the day in which the Mabul began. But the 17th day of what month? So it says in the Pasuk Chodesh Hasheni. Says Rabbi Yeshua, also Yom, that 17th day is the 17th of Iyar, because the world was created in Tishrei. I'm sorry, the world was created in Nisan, and the Chodesh Hasheni therefore is Iyar. So when you're counting months, then Nisan is the first month because that's the day of the month of creation, and Iyar is the second month. And here it says, B'chodesh Hasheni. Now, since Rabbi Yeshua holds that the world was created in Nisan, that would be the beginning of the counting of the years, he must interpret the Mabul began on the 17th of Iyar, because it says 17th of the second month. That's explicit in the Torah. Now, the waters fell until Chav Ches Sivan, which is 150 days later. No, I'm sorry. So again, the Mabul begins according to Rabbi Yeshua on the 17th of Iyar. The waters fall down Iyar, Nisan, Sivan, which means till the 17th of Sivan. Okay, we'll come back to Chavtes. Now, after Sivan, the Torah says 150 days later, we get to Alf Kislev. Because in the month of Kislev, when the land started becoming dry, the Teva landed on that day. It turns out to be the 17th of Kislev, which is the 7th month after the Geshamim stopped coming down. So again, the Geshamim stopped coming down on the 28th of Sivan, and the Teva lands on Hari Arat on the 17th of Kislev, and 150 days after Chavches Sivan, and that's going to be Yud Zayin Kislev. That's when the Tevas landed. Now it says Niru Rosh Harim, that's on Al Shvat, which is the 10th month after the Mabul began. And all this is in the 600th year of Noah. The Mayim started drying up on Aleph Nisan, which is already into the 601st year of Noah's life, and Yavsha Aretz b'Chav Zayin Iyar. Now, how did the Mabul start? Rabbi Yeshua says the following: the 17th of Iyar is Yom Shemazel Kima. Shokeh B'Yom. Now, the word Mazel means a constellation, and there's a constellation called Kima. And Kima is sort of on the bottom of a larger constellation, which is called Tleh. And Tleh, if I'm not mistaken, is the symbol of the month of Nisan. Let me just see if that's correct. What's it called? Aries. I had a chart here. Now I don't find it. Okay. Here in the English, they have a chart. I just noticed it. Not sure how to read this chart. Problems. Oh, here it is. It says here that Nisan is Tleh, a ram or a lamb, Aries. Okay, good. Now, Shotea Bayom means Yored mitachas lepnei haaretz bayom. So Kima is that constellation that goes down below the earth during the nighttime period. I'm sorry. In other words, 1 second. Yori mitachas. Yeah, right. In other words, instead of appearing during the daylight hours, it is below the earth during the nighttime. B'chodesh Iyar. And Mazel Shar, Ol Sayom, Nimtza Mazel Tleh, Shekodim Lo Ol Shtei Shos Kodem Hayom. In other words, if the Seder, the normal astronomical movement of the constellations, if not for the Mabul, then the Mazel of Tleh would not appear on the horizon until 2 hours before day. And now we're in which month? We're in the month of Iyar. Umayonos mismatin. Now it's Iyar is already during the hot summer months, and therefore the sun would naturally be beating down on the earth, and the waters would be diminished. But mitosha shinu maseyim, it's because of the sin of the Dar Mabul, various different kinds of immorality. Is Shina Kodesh Baruch Aleim, God changed Maisa gracious in order to bring about a punishment. Vehela Mazel Kima Bayom. So instead of the Mazel Kima being underneath the ground, and it would only be in relationship to the earth during the nighttime, God brought back Kima at the beginning of the day. And now it appears on the horizon. And now the Mabul is going to be brought about from, or as a result of the Mazel Kima, because the Mazel Kima is the koch of the Geshamim. So God had to bring out the Mazel Kima during the day because the Mabul began during the day, which we know from a pasuk that says "Be'etzem hayom hazeh ba Noach el hateva." So he came into the teva in the light of day. So this mazel, which is the manifestation of the koch of Geshamim, would normally during this time of the year be subdued, so to speak, because it's underneath the ground. Now it's up on top in the sky, and it's daytime. God removed two of the stars of the constellation called Kima. It's through these two holes the waters came down. So that's according to Rabbi Yeshua. The Mabul begins on the 17th of Iyar. Rabbi Eliezer Omer also Yom, the day in which the Mabul began was Shivasa b'Mar Cheshvan. Right, because Rabbi Eliezer identifies the creation of the world as Tishrei, so that when we start counting the years of Noach, we have to count his years from Tishrei. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, there's no possibility of interpreting that the Mabul began on the 17th of Iyar, because then it would come out that the Teva, landed and the mountaintops appeared after the world was created in Tishrei. Now the psukim are clear that the dryness of the earth, what's called Charv Hamayim, that happened in that year. So Yom Shemazel Kima Ola Bayom, and this is going to be in the month of Cheshvan and Mayanos Miskavim. That's when the waters start coming down. And therefore, on top of Yud Beis, what this will conclude is Mitoch Shinui Maseyem, because of the sins of Dor Mabul, Shina Kodesh Baruch Aleim Ma'aseh Bereishis, Behelo Mazel Kima Bayom, Benotol Shnei Kochavim, Vehevi Mabul Liolam. So that again we saw, and the Gemara is going to explain later on. According to Rabbi Eliezer, based on Seder Ola, the Mazel Kima should be Ola even at that time of the year in Cheshvan Bayom. So what was the Shinui in Sidrei Bereishis at the time of the Mabul? Here's where we're going to stop, and Mitzvah will continue this discussion tomorrow on Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph.